Health Director at Resiliency and Wellbeing Center here at GW School of Medicine and Health Sciences. And today we're going to be talking about an interesting concept of a resilient brain that could help you in your stress management and resiliency to face adversity in your life. With that said, I want to kind of start with a bit of an analogy. And when we do various physical activities like working out, or doing yoga, or stretching, or massaging even ourselves, we are kind of increasing blood flow in our body and oxygen intake. We are increasing flexibility in our ligaments, the strength of our muscles. We're making our body adapt to various levels of physical activity and hopefully evolve and improve. The same concept applies to our brain. We can make it flexible, we can make it adaptable, because what happens when the stress hits us is our brain kind of gets stuck, and it can get stuck in that fight or flight response, or it can get stuck in a freeze response, and it's very, very difficult to make it unstuck. So today we're going to figure out how to make our brain unstuck and travel seamlessly and comfortably between different stages of arousal and calming itself down. So part of our conversation is really engaging various types of body-mind modalities, such as mindfulness, or getting in touch with different points of your body that feel stressed and working through those points to release that stress. And also perhaps sometimes you can use the kind of a top to bottom approach where we engage our cognition and we restructure the way we look at certain things. So this initial picture kind of makes us saying, where do you find yourself? Mindful or mindful, right? And the goal here is to help us declutter, to help us make our brain more flexible and more resilient. I want to start this with an exercise that can show actually how it's done. And it's called the breathing shift exercise. So if you can find a comfortable position, you can close your eyes, you can lay down or recline in your chair. I want you to start focusing on your breathing. Just notice how you breathe. You don't need to do anything about it. You don't need to change it. Just pay attention to that flow of air, how it goes in. Is it going in through your nose or through your mouth? And how it circulates through your body and how it's coming out. And as you're paying attention to it and you're getting into that rhythm, I want you to bring up a good, happy memory, right? And try to use whatever memory that helps you to feel at ease, helps you to feel connected, help you to feel fulfilled with joy and at ease. And once you have that memory crystallizing in your head, I want you to notice how your breathing is looking right now. And I want you to put your hand over location in your body where you feel that happiness. All right, it could be your heart, it could be your forehead, it could be your belly. Just connect with that happy spot and stay with it for a moment. I want you to really let yourself experience it fully. Notice how it feels. And once you had enough of that, we're gonna shift because we are doing a breathing shift. We're gonna experience something different. We're gonna bring up a memory that has low level of disturbance. And that's the key here. I don't want you to think about something kind of a hardcore. I want you to think about something moderately or mildly irritating or stressful. And once you start thinking about it, notice how your breathing changes. And I want you to also notice where that disturbance sits in your body. And I want you to shift your hand from your happy place to the stressed place that is crystallizing in your body right now. And again, just stay with it for a little bit. I don't want you to dwell on it, but just take a note of how your breathing changes. Is it becoming more shallow, faster? Is there something else going on in your body in addition to that? Again, don't do anything about it. Just take a mental note. And right now, I want you to intentionally change your hand from that distress location to a happy spot and deliberately change your breathing pattern to the happy breathing that you got when you were thinking about that happy memory. All right, and I want you to see what changes, what shifted. And that's something that should look different for everybody, but I hope that's a positive shift. And again, once you feel your system is kind of getting back to that more calm, connected, happier place, I want you to start coming back to here and now and just taking a little bit of time to reflect about what you did and how you did it and what it produced. And as we go through our talk today, you will see that what you just did, you helped your nervous system self-regulate. And you've used a specific intervention that involved your breathing, that involved imagery, that made it happen. So, speaking of how we do it and what helps us to do that regulation of our nervous system, I want us to conceptualize the stress and how it interacts with our body. And I'll do that through that image of bucket of resiliency. And this is something that has been developed by Brabant and Turkison in 2002. And it's a very helpful image to me because it shows you that, okay, if you imagine our capacity to hold stress in a form of a bucket, and all of us are very different. Everybody's bucket is very different. It's different size and different shape, different holding capacity, right? It also has different mechanisms of kind of how the stress flow in and how it gets released. So if you look at this diagram, stress goes into the bucket. Again, depending on the size, depending on what previous vulnerabilities we have. It could be maybe I have a physical illness, maybe I have some family circumstances that kind of add up. Maybe I have a demanding job. Maybe I am taking care of small children. So all of it could affect the holding capacity of that bucket of resiliency, right? And then we also have a tapping mechanism, and this is how we release the stress. So let's say I got a good night of sleep, and that's how I released, how my tap opened, released the stress. So I'm ready to fill my bucket again with the new stress, right? Or maybe I went to my yoga class, maybe I played with my kid, or talk to my spouse, whatever that is that you do that brings you that joy and fulfillment, right? But then it's not always work that way, right? Because it could be that my tap does not work as well. Maybe the way my distressing or my coping is working is not too healthy for me. Maybe that glass of wine before bed became two or became a bottle, and it's, not doing me any good. Or maybe I am trying to just detach from it without reflecting and properly processing it. Or maybe it's too traumatic and it accumulates at a very fast pace. So then my bucket is overflowing. So what do you do? Typically, our system is smart enough to regulate, right? And this is how regulated nervous system looks. So you have some stress coming in. We obviously engage our stress response, which could be fight or flight, could be freeze, could be tend and befriend. And then it kind of settles down, right? This is where our parasympathetic system balances it out, and it is able to regulate things. Not all the time, because we all have what we call is our window of tolerance or threshold of tolerance. So if you think about this concept, you can imagine it's like a river that is flowing, right? And it could narrow, that could be a narrow spot. And then if it's a narrow spot, it's very fast, right? And it's not too safe. When it widens, then the pace of the water is slower, and then you feel more balanced and calm, relax and control. You function more effectively. You're able to kind of face challenges that life throws your way. So that window of tolerance is different for everybody, but this is our capacity to hold stress, right? And respond to it effectively. And depending on where we are and how much stress we accumulated and what our environment, what's our internal capacity to deal with it, that window of tolerance can change, it can shrink, and then it can potentially produce all those negative symptoms of stress. Or if we try to utilize healthy coping tools like meditation, listening to music, engaging in hobbies and things like that, then we help to expand our window of tolerance to stress. Now, what are some of the things that help us in that capacity to expand our window of tolerance? So this is what I call a bottom-up approach, because it helps us to really work with our senses and our body. So we're not working here, we're not working with our cognition, we are working with our somatic responses, right? Because our body holds the stress and actually manifests that we are stressed very often much faster before we realize that that's what's happening. So activities that typically decrease that stress arousal, that fight or flight response, is really anything that calms our system down. Deep breathing, and we've did a bit of a breathing shift. We worked with our breathing in the beginning. Smell, this is our oldest sense. I love working with smell because that kind of helps to shift things pretty fast. I carry personally a little vial of aromatherapy oils. My favorite ones are lavender, and I love this one because it calms my system down quite a bit. And another one that I use for actually stimulating my system if I am in this kind of numb, detached state where my arousal is decreased, where I go into a freeze state, it's eucalyptus. That kind of bumps me up. Taste is another good one. We all know the positive effect of comfort food, sometimes too positive, right? You can easily go from just enough to too much. Hot chocolate, right? Or something chewy. I'm a big fan of chocolate, and my team knows that. So that helps to decrease the arousal. On the contrary, if you eat crunchy food, something hot, minty, sour, that stimulates your taste buds, and it helps to create an arousal in your system. So you see how it works. It balances out. You can use one or another depending on what you need to accomplish, either like bump your system up because let's say I'm not feeling too motivated, or that stress just really puts me down. I'm feeling demoralized. I'm not feeling I have energy. So that's one side of the spectrum versus another one where I'm anxious, I'm hyperactive, I'm like jittery, it's too much going on. So you can balance those things out. And there are some other examples here, like tactile. I love tactile experiences, like running warm water in your hands. Weighted blankets are really great. Soft and fluffy textures, or soft and fluffy friends, which I have my cats. And if you have other creatures that help you feel more relaxed, that's great. Or on the contrary, you can have cold water that can like wake you up, Velcro texture, any other sensory shakers for tactile input that can help you. So I'm not going to sit too much on it. It's here and it will be available to you in a recording, but those are just some ideas of how you can increase that window of tolerance working with your body and somatic experiences. Now I want to talk about something that's very dear to my heart, because in the diagram that you saw prior, I'm going to go back. This is your regulated nervous system. So that's a traditional approach to kind of a arousal activation and kind of settling down and being more kind of a calm, this parasympathetic response. So it's almost like a switch. It's on and off, right? So it's like two modalities. Now, there is a theory out there that's called a polyvagal theory, and that's something that added one more component to this on and off switch. And we'll talk about it right now. So in a polyvagal theory world, autonomic nervous system is looked at as a ladder, right? And the ladder has kind of three portions. The first one is what is attributed to the ventral vagal activation. And this is typically a part of vagus nerves connected to our neocortex, right? This is our function that helps us to feel at ease, manage whatever comes our way, feeling in control, connected, seeing big picture. So this is what we call safe and connected. And this is that state that ideally we want to be at, but it's not possible all the time, right? So the sympathetic state that helps us to actually respond to the threat we needed. This is something that is attributed to our sympathetic nervous system. And this is where we mobilize our resources, where our limbic system dominates. And this is where you are getting kind of overwhelmed, having a hard time keeping up, may feel anxious, irritated, world seem to be dangerous, chaotic, and friendly. It's where your amygdala is on the high alert, right? And then the dorsal vagus, this is kind of that state where you are feeling numb, shut down. This is immobility or freeze response. This is our reptilian brain talking, right? This is what a lot of animals do. They pretend that they don't exist. They freeze, right? So they're not seen by predators. They can save their life that way. So, and this is where we kind of feel that it's too much, I'm overwhelmed, I am handling all of it by myself, the world is dark and empty, and that's not a good place to be, right? So, according to the polyvagal theory, that simple first diagram looks a little more complex. And I'm not going to go into details here, but as you see, there are different states that we go through this ladder, 3 states, throughout the day, throughout the week. And the goal of interventions is really to help us move through those states and not get stuck. That's what I started with. So this is the autonomic nervous system interventions. The goal is reestablish social engagement, increase resiliency by moving comfortably between all the states, right? And there is a really, really nice quote from Alexander Levin that I love. It's reclaiming a natural childlike state of joy. Don't we all want that? And sometimes it feels like an unattainable goal, but yet we can do something about it. So some interventions here that can help us to pursue those goals. And I kind of group them to address each portion of the ladder, right? And in this chart, what you have on your left is various ways the stress response manifests. And then on the right side, you have various techniques that help, right? So let's look at the parasympathetic state. So if you get stuck there, if things don't function well, this is where your system shuts down, right? Where you feel that depressed, dissociated, immobile state, right? Grounding techniques help. It's that splash of cold water on your face or neck. It's the exercise where you spot 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you feel, 2 things you smell, and 1 you can taste. You kind of go maybe around your room and look for those. And I can promise you, once you start looking, then your brain starts shifting, right? Because you're engaging other side of your brain. Wiggling your toes, posture shift. I like those. I typically, when I talk, I try to shift my body a bit, stretch, or just change a position. Digging heels into the floor, tracing hands. So those are things that help us to feel, okay, I am here now. My world is not as dangerous as I thought it is. There's something that I can anchor myself with or wake my system up, right? Sympathetic response to stress. Typically, we've talked about agitation, anxiety. So calming techniques work. We talked about deep breathing. Valsalva manure is great, though it's used for many other things. Ear massage. And our ear is a great place to actually remind ourselves to stimulate that vagus nerve. You can massage your ear just like I'm doing right now. You can pull it away from your skull. There is also various Eastern medicine techniques like acupuncture and acupressure that work with ear and various points on it. So this is a good one that helps with calming your system. Humming, singing, people sing in the shower, right? That's a great, in addition to making you happy, it's also a great way to help your nervous system to bring that childlike state of joy, right? Laughter. And I know we have a wonderful laughter yoga session today with our mindfulness experience a little later. So I look forward to that. But laughter helps us to really regulate our nervous system. And then social, and that part of the ladder where We are hoping to feel calm and connected, but when stress hits us, we feel disconnected. We feel alone. We feel like we cannot establish rapport, engage with other people. We feel very isolated. So what can help is creating safety, meaning even if you are not feeling it, try to smile. I worked long enough in recovery and substance abuse treatment business. And one of the mantras there, you fake it till you make it, right? So even if you don't feel that way, try to put that smile on your face, because that's what signals to your brain that, okay, we're doing something with our facial muscles that looks like a smile, and maybe it will start producing that response feeling wise in us. Soothing your voice, surrounding yourself with familiar people, engaging in playful experiences, which as adults we very often deprive ourselves from. And that's something that can actually help. So don't be afraid to be silly. Don't be afraid to play. That is actually great for your mental health and regulation of your mental, your nervous system. Another thing that I want to point out here is a state of neutrality, which could be a very helpful concept for a lot of people, because very often when we are feeling dysregulated, we forget that it's not taking entirely over our whole body. There are parts of our body that may not feel that anger or anxiety or numbness. And it's good to get in touch with them to remind yourself that. And the way you can do it, you can scan your body and you can pose and notice, okay, I know my heart is pounding, my palms are sweating, but my nose is not reacting to anything, right? Or my ear or my toes, right? Those are neutral body parts. And it means that I can get in touch with them to remind myself that I am not entirely taken by that stress, that I do have places that are intact and I can gain control, right, by getting in touch with them. So that's an interesting way that you can utilize to help yourself to regulate things in your nervous system. Now, we've talked a lot about body-mind modalities, so it's kind of a bottom-up approach. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the top-down approach. And this is about how we think about stress, right? It's how you frame your narrative about stress and what you're experiencing, right? And very often when adversity hits us, when stress hits us, we, to simplify it, we have kind of two ways of responding. One is actively engaging with adversity. And that's something that you connect with your strengths, you connect with your sense of purpose, you're persevering despite. So your question to yourself is, how am I resisting this adversity? What can I do, right? How can I engage my resources? And another style is avoidant. Okay, so you're trying to just pretend it's not happening, you dismiss it, you're trying to push through it. And I am guilty of doing it for a big portion of my life. And I can tell you that this does not work, because what it does not resolve what's happening. It only amplifies the stress response, and it does not support resilience. So it's a good question to ask yourself, how am I engaging with adversity, or how am I avoiding the adversity? And in that, your narrative is what is very helpful to look at, Because the truth is, things that are distressing, they produce similar response in our body as something that, let's say, excites us, right? Because you have physiologically, you have like your heart is racing, your breathing might be amplified, you might be like jittery or like restless, agitated, but it's about how you call it that makes it one or a measure. So that perception is something that you can also work with. You can perceive something as a negative threat, and thus what it will do, it will continue feeding into you feeling anxious, or you procrastinating, and it may affect a lot of other things in you, because that's how you form in your narrative. This is a threat, this is something negative. If you call it, okay, it's a challenge, I may not be excited about it, but this is something that I can work with and learn from, so I can do it better next time. And what it can produce a sense of excitement or challenge, motivation to conquer it. And in turn, it can enhance your performance. It can enhance your ability to work with what is going on. So this is something to keep in mind. And I want to talk a little bit about a few other things that could be helpful in those practices that help you connect with your strengths. And what we call them sometimes in the therapy world, they are practices that help you anchor with what matters. And in turn, they build hope, right? And hope is one of the crucial things that help you push through any types of stress, challenge, adversity, because there is something that holds you, right? And if you look at how people kind of engage, they can engage on the individual level, they can engage on a relational level, right? And those are two distinct styles, because in one, you kind of activate resources within you, while with the others, you're reaching out. And it doesn't mean that one should exclude the other. They can complement each other. You can use them together. But just to make it conceptually simpler for us to look at, I want to break them down like this. So if you look at the individual coping strategies, they can be quite different. And I have a few examples here. For example, if you're looking at, oops, let me go back to that slide. I apologize. So if we look at the individual coping strategies, one of them could be activating your core identity, meaning who you really are. Who do I most aspire to be? Those are the questions that you would need to ask yourself as you're facing the stress and adversity. And it could be you're reconnected with that part of you that is, I am a fighter, right? Or I'm my father's daughter or son, right? I never say, I never say never. It could be any sort of mantras that activates the core thing about who you are. And that helps to push through. It's very cognitive, but yet it can be your anchor to help other things to move to a place of, okay, I'm feeling more in control. I'm feeling I can do it, right? It could be that I am connecting with my group or family or team identity. So it's not just me as a person, it's me as a part of a tribe, right? I've mentioned I am my father's daughter. That could be one of this, right? It could be, if you're part of, let's say, a sports team, right? and you have a mantra that your coach always told you, and that's something that can bring it up for you, right? Or something in your family or in your work culture that, you know, can help you. And I have some example here that you can kind of pull from. Um, and it could be various things that, again, help you feel that I'm a part of something bigger that can help me. Now, in the relational coping, you would need yourself to ask a question: who do I turn to for support when I'm stressed? And activate those relationships. And that's very, very crucial when you're feeling, especially in that numb, isolated state where you're in your dark corner and it's hard for you to get yourself out of it. So that's where you can kind of turn to people that can show you that lifeline. It could be, again, your family, a trusted friend. It could be other people that you feel comfortable with in your circle. It could be your pastor. It could be your mentor. Again, reaching out to those people may provide you a whole different perspective on situation, may help you to reframe your narrative and see things that you did not see before. And again, pull you out of that place where you feel stuck, right? So a few other things, we've talked about emotional regulation quite a bit, but just to give you a few, yoga, spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, mindfulness, physical activities. Those are things that are helping to calm yourself down. And everyone have their own, and I hope that from this list you can choose a few that work for you. But if they do, engage them to help that internal self-regulation. And for a lot of people, especially in our academic world, the problem solving and goal seeking can be that anchor. And this is something that very often helps people to get through. Right? And it could be, all right, how am I focusing on the changes I can make to solve this problem, right? To achieve my goals. Maybe I need to set boundaries to protect my time. Maybe I need to reach out to my supervisor to discuss things that have been, you know, stressing me out. Maybe I should work on my time management skills, whatever that is that helps you to solve the problem and feel you're regaining that control, would be excellent here. So I hope it gives you some ideas and kind of formalize things for you. In this presentation, I have tons of different Azure tools. But most important points here is that your first priority, if you're using this top-down approach, is to discern what your signature strengths is in those hope building practices. Then you need to distinguish whether individual coping or relational coping is more of your thing. And again, you had different examples in this presentation. Your third priority is to learn how you most can strengthen your emotional regulation. And we had some great examples there in terms of what you can do to calm your nervous system down. And then use those three kind of steps to get you where you need to be. So start with your strengths, decide which style you use better, and then self-regulate. And our center is there to help you in that process. And we will be happy to answer any questions or perhaps see you for a consultation. We work with individuals, groups, departments, and we are a great resource to provide you with more tools. And as a part of this May Mental Health Month activities, there will be more related to how you can work with your emotional health and strengthen up your stress response. We will be holding a number of mindfulness-based stress reduction sessions. 3 of them will be in person and 1 of them will be virtual that can help you expand your toolbox. So this is something that I would like you to encourage to attend. And our wonderful colleague Nina Paul will be leading those. And then we have a whole range of different Azure things in pipeline for you as we are rolling out this May Mental Health Month activities to help you whole well-being, not just emotional health, but also things connected with how you recharge, how you take care of your nutrition, how you move your body, and so on. So stay tuned to all these activities. And I want to point out that, again, for us, you can always reach out. I'm going to share with you our website, and it's right here, Resiliency and Wellbeing Center. The contact information of everybody on our team is here. You can reach out to us at any time. And that is concluding our conversation about building up resiliency of your brain and helping you to face whatever life brings your way with confidence and strengths. When I say improve offer to you, and we look forward to seeing you again at many Azure offerings that we have. Thank you.